Hello. First, let me apologize. I realize that I'm tough to understand, and I'll do a quick background on that. Back in '04, I had half of my tongue cut out. I had a tumor on my tongue and cancer under it, and it was malignant. And I never chewed or smoking wasn't anything like that. It could have been work related, but that's another story. Who knows? Anyway, they cut out half of my tongue and then did a reconstruction with the patch, a skin graft, and an artery for my left arm, and did some lymph node reconstruction, some throat work, that sort of thing. And 12 years later, I'm cancer free. It's great. I'm still dealing with a few radiation therapy issues that, back when I had my radiation therapy, I'm dealing with some issues from that. It does some damage, but I wake up every morning, and if it wasn't for my family and friends, loved ones, iRacing community, especially, um, who were there, especially in my most recent hardship, and I couldn't thank you guys enough, and I love you all, and again, I'm sorry if you have trouble understanding me, but I'm gonna do this vocally. It's easier than trying to type it out. Nobody wants to watch that anyway. If it bothers you that much, tough shit. We're gonna do it anyway. I'm sure there's other videos where you can understand people better. Maybe they explain it better that you can go to. But this is how I'm gonna do it. And again, I'm sorry if you have trouble understanding me. The future videos, I won't explain all this again. I'll just reference this video, the first minute or so, if people want to know why. But I wanted a place where they can reference it if they're curious. So what we're going to talk about in this video, really quick, just so you know, and that way if it's something that you already understand, we can move to the next video. We're going to do a quick introduction of why I'm doing this video, trading paint, stuff like that. Not detailed stuff, but then we'll talk about folder creations, why I have certain folders, and why I use them, and how to create them for those that don't know. Where to get your downloads for Gimp and the iRacing templates so you can create a custom paint. How to open those templates with Gimp, and we'll talk about a couple of ways to do that. And then we'll take a quick look in the sim and maybe just change the color of a car real fast, just so you can attempt to do that yourself and see if you can get that far. And once you get that far, that's when you get excited, and now you know how to get it in the game, and now you can paint. So we'll cover that as well. So a quick introduction. The reason that we're able to do custom paints is because of iRacing, but the reason that the iRacing painting community is as big as it is, and there's so many people doing it, is because of trading paints. Trading paints is a software that allows me to get into a sim, and anybody else that's running trading paint software is going to see a custom paint that I did, something outside of the iRacing default schemes. And they do that by putting your paint folder with your paint file with your iRacing ID into somebody else's folder so they see your custom paint, and vice versa. Without trading paints, you wouldn't be able to see everybody else's custom paints. And therefore there would be, the painting community would be next to nothing if there really was one. There is no other software out there that allows us to look at each other's custom paints. And Trading Paints makes that easy. It's free. They do have a pro version for other stuff, but I think people like to donate and get pro just to donate something to them to say thank you. But everything you want, that you'll want to begin with, is free. You'll be able to see other people's custom paints. They'll be able to see yours. And again, without Trading Paints, this wouldn't even be possible. So I want to thank them, the owner, creator, Steve Luvender, and I know I butchered his name. Sorry, Steve. His right-hand guy is Sean Brandt, the coder, so owner and coder. They probably changed hats. I hate to give one more credit than the other because I know they both work extremely hard on this all the time. So Steve Luvender, Sean Brandt, thank you guys. If the wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't even be doing this video. We wouldn't have a painting community in iRacing. So thank you from me, and I'm sure from many other people. That's why we're doing custom paints. The reason I'm doing this video, I already have a series of these videos of how to do this stuff, but they're a little bit long. There's still some questions I get asked where I didn't explain it well enough, and some things in iRacing have changed, where to get the templates, how to open them, things like that. So I wanted to shorten up the videos, make them a little bit more specific, and try to help out some of the people that just aren't familiar with PCs and are starting from the beginning and just learning how to do this thing. So that's why we're going to go through this from the beginning, from not knowing anything to being able to see your paint, and then in later videos we'll talk about the tools that we use and how to do specific things, whether it be, you know, different gradients or lining stuff up or whatever. So we'll talk about those in the other videos. And as I finish these videos, I'll replace the ones that I already have in my forum sticky, and I'll show that to you guys because it's part of the process for what we're doing. So, quick introduction, folder creations. The reason I do folder creations is to keep things nice and clean where we want to see them. So if I download a template, for example, from iRacing, I know where it goes. It's always going to go into my iRacing stuff, and it's always going to go into templates, and the first one is going to go into my zips folder. This is how it downloads from iRacing. It downloads as a zip file. And then I'll open that up. I'll adjust the template where I want it to as far as folders where I want them, get rid of the stuff I don't. So it's a nice clean version. And then I'll save it as an XCF file. XCF, which you see right here, is Gimp's layered version. So every time you open that up from where you saved it, it'll open right where you saved it with all the layers where you had them, and we'll talk more about that stuff as we get into future paints. But having separate folders keeps things nice and clean, keeps things where you want them. So for example, my iRacing stuff folder has folders for what I use most of. I always know where I'm going to save them. I make sure I save them to the right place, and I know where I can find them. I have my iRacing paints folder. If you get into painting and you start painting a lot of cars, you want to save those in case you need to modify or send something, one paint they lost or whatever. You know, just about every paint I've done, I've saved in order. I still have a bunch I need to number and clean up, and some more I need to put on here, but I'll always have them here, and I have them backed up on a portable hard drive as well. But if you opened up any one of these, you'll see I have a folder, and then I have a logos folder inside that paint folder. So inside the logos folder goes all the logos for that paint. Inside the main folder goes my TGAs, or my XCF files, my progress, the actual template where I'm at, and I'll save them as I go. And you can see I had 4 versions here, and if you save them as you go, then you have a place to revert back to. And then I also have my images. I always send progress images as I'm going to the person that requested the paint, so they can get a rough idea, you know, what path we're looking at. If they don't like something, they can speak up and that sort of thing. So folders are important. The way you create them, if you don't know, is you find an empty spot on your desktop. Right here is fine. You right click with your right mouse button, go down to New, and then go over to Folder. Once you click on that, once this is highlighted blue like it is right here, you can automatically name it. Say Gen 6, or we'll just say it's a Gen 6 Gimp, right? That's the type of car that's going to be a logo Gimp. Now, if you click on it accidentally, or you want to rename it, you can either right-click again. Right-click's your best friend for Windows. Go down to Rename, or click on it to highlight it. Wait a sec, click one more time, and you'll see how to highlight it. You can rename it, hit Enter, and it'll name it whatever you want. Same goes for inside. You right-click. You want a folder within that folder. New, Folder, Logos. So now my Logos section is ready to go inside my Gimp. This is the first thing I do before I start painting, is create a folder for that paint. And almost all of my folders look the same. Logo, and sometimes I'll have links if I need to look at a certain theme or something, but they all have a logos paint in them. A logos folder rather, and then progress pictures, that sort of thing. So create your folders. Right click is your best friend, and it'll make things much easier for you. So where you can find the downloads for the Gimp download, really quick, is you can go to the iRacing forums. You can go down to General Paint Discussion, and then I have a sticky thread in here, and who knows, it'll be in one of these spots here at the top, depending on the last time somebody posted in there. So it'll say Gimp tutorials or something like that with my name. Click on that, and then in the first post, right at the top, I'll have a link for Gimp downloads right here. So you click on that, it'll take you to where you need to download the latest version of Gimp. Download Gimp directly. I would avoid BitTorrent just because I don't know anything about it. I don't want to speak to it. This works just fine. Download your Gimp directly and you'll have the latest version of Gimp. For the iRacing templates, there's a couple different places you can download this. You go to the iRacing member site, and then on this bar here, you see this bar right here? You go to account, and then you go down to customize paint schemes, and then customize car. You can find the templates for the helmets and suit the same way. You just go into those sections, but we're going to do for the car. So you click on customize car, and the member site can be a little slow sometimes. So you decide what car you want to download. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can do it for the individual car. Click on the car you want to download the template for, and click download car template. It'll automatically download that as a zip file for you. You can also go up here, that's right here. You can also go up here where it says download car templates. This will allow you to download them all at the top here, or download them individually. Now, I would avoid downloading all templates. For one, unless you have every car and plan on painting every car, you're just using up space. Two, two, things change. There might be a different template for that car in 3 months, and so you're just downloading templates of something you're not going to paint, and you're going to have that file there, and you're going to get confused on whether it's the old one or the new one. So just download what you need. Again, you can do it individually here, or you can pick the car you want to download the template. Like right here, you click download car template. Mine automatically starts for that. You can change where the folder is, but if you have Google Chrome, you can click right here after it's done downloading to open it up. Just like that. And that'll get us to talking about opening up templates with Gimp. So you can either open it from your download, like I just showed you, which was right down here, or go to where it downloaded to, usually in your downloads by default. So you would go to Start, Documents, Downloads right here, and click on that, and it'll be probably the top. Now, I use WinZip. 7-Zip. 7-Zip is a free unzipper. Oftentimes, though, I found with these templates, you don't need to unzip them. All you really need to do is take it. You can open it directly from here. Double click on it. And open it. If you have Gimp as your default program to open this type of file, a PSD file, you can see right here it opened it. But let's say you don't. Let me clear this up real quick. I can't remember which one I had here. If you don't have Gimp set up yet to open this type of file, just hold this and drag it over onto your desktop. Okay? We'll close this for now. You can right click on this. Right click. Right here. Go to Open With. Now, when you hit Open With, if you don't see Gimp in recommended programs here, you can click this down arrow underneath other programs. You may see it here, you may not. If you don't see it here, go to Browse at the bottom right. You go to Computer, C, and then you're going to want to go to Program Files right here. You can hit this little down arrow so it doesn't open the folder itself. Then you want to go down to Gimp 2 right here. We're going to hit this. You can hit it and it'll just give you what's in it. Or you hit this down arrow It just makes it a little bit easier to navigate. And then I believe it's in bin. So let's click on bin. And you'll see it right here, the EXE. Not the console, but the Gimp 2.0 EXE. So you double click on that because that's the file you want to open it with. It'll bring it to the top up here. Then if you leave this button here selected, always use the selected program to open this kind of file. Then every time you open up a zip file, it'll use this to do it. And then you're going to want to do the same process when you open up, you know, a PSD or actually this is a PSD right here, I'm sorry. So every time you open a PSD, if this is checked, when you open it the first time with GIMP, all PSDs will be opened with GIMP. If you don't want to use GIMP for all PSDs, just uncheck that, click OK, and it'll do it the one time. And that goes for all your other files, your TGAs, your PNGs, your JPEGs. So you just click OK, and now it'll open up that folder with GIMP. And all other PSDs, when you go to open them, it'll open them with GIMP. And you can see it open here. The other way to do it, if you right click on it, go to open with, sometimes it'll have an arrow depending on what version you have. And then, like I said, you just double click up here if you already have GIMP shown up there. Otherwise, you want to browse to it. If, for some reason, when you open it, it gives you a funny image or something, then you may need to unzip that file. It's just, you know, some people have to, some don't. It's tough without being behind somebody's system, but I've gone through several PMs where we've had to walk through different processes and different things work for different people. So, again, if you go to Documents, Downloads, and we'll go ahead and we'll just drag this over. This is the zip file again, the original download. If you right click, you can go to 7-zip and extract here. And what that'll do is it'll extract that file, and see we already have it, so it's asking if we still want to do it. We'll just say yes to all. It'll extract that file just like we did when we pulled it over, except for we didn't extract it, we just pulled it out of the zip. I don't know if that's because mine's automatically unzipping it or why, but if you have to unzip it, just do that. Right click, 7-zip, which you'll have to download, it's free. Extract here, it'll extract it right to your desktop. If you want to extract it somewhere else, for example, when I download this, the first place this file goes, my iRacing stuff, it's going to go into my templates and my zips. So I'm going to take this and drag it over here. Now I have the zip file, the original. After I open up the file in GIMP, what I would do is, and I'm not going to go through the whole process, but what normally I would do is I'd get rid of those because I don't use the default patterns. Even though I'll show you in later videos how you can change those colors and still keep clean lines. I would set all this up the way I want it. So I would have a separate folder, layer folder for my logos. I'd have a separate layer folder for graphics. I'd have my highlight layers moved in here, and then I would save it as a clean version. And what that does is every time I open up a new clean version of something, for example, if you open up my Renault 2 clean version, you can see this is where I saved it. So every time I paint this car, I open up that, and I have everything where I want it on the right side. I have my folders where I want them. I have my highlight, my metallic layers where I want them. And this just makes it easier when you go to do a new paint to have a clean version ready to go. So that's how you download and open up the files. Now we're going to take a quick look in the sim. So I have a replay ready to go, but really the best method is you go into a test session with the car you're painting. If you haven't, for example, I'll show you. To get to the paint folders, you go to, hit your start button, go to Documents, iRacing, and Paint. Now you're not going to see anything in this. It's going to be empty, and I'll tell you why. I deleted all my paint folders for all my cars to show you guys something. If you haven't been on, even though I own a bunch of cars, there's no paint folders for them. That's because I haven't been on the track with that car for the first time. Once you go on the track with the car, then that paint folder will automatically show up, and I'll show you how it works. Now again, I've had them all here at one point, but I deleted them just to show you how this works. I always go into a test session, and I'll go around the track maybe one time. I'll save a lap, and then that will be, I'll save it as, you know, screenshots for Formula 2.0. That way, under my replays, while I'm painting, I just go to that replay, open it up, and as I'm painting, I can make changes and look at the changes without having to enter the sim each time. I have a separate folder for mine. Yours is likely going to be under online replays. I created a separate folder inside iRacing replays for screenshots. You can see it right here, down here. You can create a separate folder. Yours is probably going to be here, and then if you want to create a separate folder outside the root, you can. And then, although it'll be in the main directory probably too. So, let's watch this. Let me move this over for a minute. Remember, my paint folders is empty. As soon as I enter the track, and this will take a second. Excuse me. So, it's going to enter the track. We'll shrink this down so we can see the folder. And you can see how it's empty. And, you know, it's kind of a long replay, so this is going to take a minute. I apologize for that. Normally I would pause it here and skip forward, but I want you to see how this works with itself. So oftentimes people say, well, I don't see, you see how it just popped up? It's because it's getting ready to enter the sim. It created a folder for me. This is the folder that you're going to have to put your paint in when you want to see a change. So let's go back up. We'll move this to the end of the replay. Control F12, we'll talk about all these features in later videos. Right now we're just going to show you how to do a real quick color change and how you can do it yourself and see what it looks like. This is just the end of my replay that I cut over the start finish line. You can see the car is white. So let's minimize that. We'll get rid of this. We'll leave this open, so I'll drag it over when I want to show you something specific. So we have our formula result here. Now you can see the car that I have was white. This one's already blue, so we can make a quick change to blue. This export process is going to be a one-time deal, and then after that, all you have to do is hit Control E to export to the last place. So every time you make a change, hit Control E, click on your replay, hit Control R, you'll see the change. But the first time you do it, you want to go to File. Now, you can save and save as, but these are only good if you save them as an XCF file. XCF is Gimp's version with all these layers in it on the right. If you want to save it as any other type of file, like a TGA, that is required by iRacing, that's the file format they use. They tape this flat without any layers and they wrap it around their model. It's a TGA. If you want to save it as anything else other than that XCF, like a TGA for example, you have to go to Export As. Export As is the same thing as save, but it's for every other format like PNG or JPEG, anything other than XCF. Think of it as the same thing as saving a file, it's just for the other formats other than XCF. And we need a TGA. So you go Export As, and we want to go to our iRacing paint folders. So you go to Documents, iRacing, Paint, right here. Double click on Paint, and you can see here's that formula folder that was created once we entered the sim session. There's nothing in here. To properly name your file, it has to be car underscore your iRacing customer ID. Mine, for example, is 33837. And then, if you put .tga, you're telling this file to export it as a TGA. Then you hit Export, RLE compression's on. It's a lossless compression. It won't hurt anything. It just minimizes the file size a little bit. Hit export. And now, if you look at our folder, you'll see this is my paint. This says that paint that we see right here is associated with this ID number, which is me. So when I enter a session in iRacing, it's going to say put that paint with this guy. Also, if you're with trading paints, why we do these things. Later on we'll talk about trading paints. For painting purposes, we don't use trading paints, but after we're done with the paint is why we need trading paints. But once you're done with the paint, later on when you're in a sim, it'll take this car 33837 with the paint that's with this number, and it'll put it into everybody else's iRacing folders. So that when you enter the sim, they'll see your paint, and vice versa, you'll see theirs. So if I had a different car underscore number in here, it'll be somebody else's paint with their customer ID, so I can see their custom paint. So we exported that. Let's go to the sim real quick. Click here. We'll get rid of this. If you hold control and hit R, now you see the change that was made. If you have 3 screens, this is really easy to do. I do. Normally I have this on my right screen way over here. You won't see my other 2 screens, but I'll have it on my right screen. I'll have my GIMP in the center. I'll have logos and stuff on the left. And so it's just a matter of something like, I can make a quick change the background to black. And now if I hit Control E, just Control E, it exported that to the very last place it went. Same thing as saving it as. It saved it right over the last spot that we went to. So I don't have to follow that path each time, just the first time. So we did that real quick. Click here, hold control, hit R, there's your change. If I want to change, let's say I want to change, you can see the, let's just shrink this down a little bit so you can do both. So that we can try to do both. You can see in this paint, and I'll show you how fast this really could be. There's no white color decals. So we'll just make those white really quick. I think it's this one. Again, we'll go over all these tools and how I do this later. Right now I'm just showing you how, oh, that's not the one we want. I'm sorry. We want change color logos. I'm just showing you how quick it is. So remember, I'm not going to export it yet, but remember it's all black. So Control E, Control R. And that's how fast it is to look at a change that you made. Some people talk about a 3D viewer, this, that, yeah, that would be nice. But for what we have, it's pretty fast once you're set up and ready to go. Every time you make a change, hit Control E. Don't forget though, once you're done and you want to upload this paint to Trading Paints, you're going to want to go back to Export As. Not Export. If you hit Control E, it'll go to the last place. You want Export As because we just want to save this TGA into our GIMP folder so that we can upload it to Trading Paints. You can't, saving it to here, you can do that and export it from there, but anytime you want to save it to a different place, save the TGA or anything other than XCF to a different place, go to Export As. Don't hit Control E. So let's say I wanted to save this, we'll just go Gimp Tut dot TGA, and we'll just save it to our desktop. So you go to Export. Now every time we save this, or hit Control E, it'll just replace the one that we just did, which is right here. So man, Control E goes to the last place you exported. Only use that when you're painting and you want this to go to the last place. Otherwise, go to File, Export As to create a new path. Hopefully this information was useful. We'll have more videos soon, which we'll get into the details of how to do things. We'll talk in more detail about trading paints. We'll talk about how to take screenshots. We'll talk about the tools and all that sort of thing. But like I said, the reason I'm doing this is I wanted to do a little bit better, cleaner version of my series to better answer some questions. Selfless plug, although I'm not really taking any requests right now. Here's my new website. And thanks to the community for helping me with this. I don't know how to build websites or anything like that. And it still needs some work. But if you want to look at some of the paints that I've done with Gimp, this is the place to be. And just real quick, and I should have put this at the beginning. You get a lot of questions about what's better, Gimp or Photoshop, CS3, 5, 6, whatever. Gimp is a free software. Photoshop you gotta pay for either monthly or buy it for whatever the price is now, 4 or 6. I don't know how many $100 it is. If I was doing professional work and getting paid for it, I would probably go with Photoshop because it's got more tools. Some things are easier, some aren't. However, I have Photoshop CS6, and I much prefer Gimp for painting iRacing cars. It's not, and to make it clear, it's not the software that determines how good a paint turns out. It's the artist that's using the software. I know guys that use paint.net, even though you have to use a special plugin to get layers on there, that do great paints. So, with that said, and especially in Gimp has a pass tool that I much prefer over Photoshop's pen tool. It has different features. Again, Photoshop and Gimp are both paint programs that allow you to do many, many, many things. One does some things better, the other does some things better. For iRacing, I prefer Gimp. I think, I don't want to say this because it sounds braggadocious. I think my paints stand up to some extent. But again, it's not about, and if they don't, it has nothing to do with the software that's being used. It's the painter that uses that software. That's where the talent comes from. So, use Gimp. Learn it. If you're more comfortable with Photoshop, then use it. And you have it. If you don't want to spend the money on Photoshop, or it's a toss-up between the two programs, Gimp's free. Why not give it a shot? Anyway, thanks everybody, and we'll have more videos later on. And again, sorry about the slur, but it is what it is. Good luck, and if you have any questions, you can shoot me a private message on the forums, a PM, and I try to help in the forums as much as I can. And so we'll see you around. Thanks, everybody.